right. Well, I think we can get going. Uh, First off, I'd like to welcome you to I believe it's our third webinar in as many months. And this specific webinar is discussing the expanding world of the Vancouver release. It is probably the single most transformative release that I think ServiceNow has ever come out with. It has an extreme amount of densely packed features, and it's also now being integrated with a lot of wonderful products from Microsoft. So I want to give a moment to do a little bit of introduction for who's going to be speaking today. So myself, my name is Brian Trippi. I am the solutions architect for the ServiceNow practice at Concurrency. So I manage most of the implementations, customer interactions, and technology for all projects at Concurrency with regard to ServiceNow. I have 2 decades of ITSM automation and development experience. 1 decade of that has been spent at Concurrency. So I've been here a fair bit of time. And I'd like to introduce you to my right-hand speaker for today. Dugan, you want to give yourself a little intro?
Hi all. Yeah, I go by my last name Dugan. Mike Dugan. I've been here for I think going on 8 years here at Concurrency. Senior systems engineer. I always say cut everything that Brian told you in half for me. I don't. I wish I had all the years of expertise there. I've done a whole wide array of products and capabilities of ServiceNow, but we typically focus on ITSM, ITOM, a little bit of SecOps sprinkled in there, and then we have automation background too. So really happy to be here. Vancouver's an exciting release. I'll be touching on some more of the technical features, but happy we're here and happy we're talking about this.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So this presentation is going to be broken down into a bunch of subsections. Now, there is a lot of content in here, and I will 100% guarantee you that we will not cover everything, but we will be sending out this presentation to everybody that's joining or has registered, and it will have all of ServiceNow's capabilities within the specific feature sets we're going to talk about, but it also aligns to what our core capabilities are as an organization. So as you get this presentation, there's an entire subsection of additional modules and feature sets that we're not going to be able to cover during this presentation, but I wanted to include them just purely for transparency because it's excellent data for you to have going forward. So we're going to talk about the platform itself. We're going to talk about ITSM and DevOps. We're going to talk about ITOM and automation engine, and a little bit about how Microsoft is becoming more of a prominent player in the ServiceNow workspace. But what we're going to get started with right now is primarily the platform, because there's a lot of really, really transformative things that are going on with the core platform itself. Some of those include Now Assist enhancements, which is inclusive of interactions with ChatGPT and the summation capabilities and knowledge article generation that comes with that. Some experience enhancements with being able to add guided tours in specific areas. And given all of the security concerns as of late, with a lot of organizations being penetrated and being held hostage, there has been even more of an emphasis on security within the ServiceNow platform. So there are two things there that we would like to touch on, which is Zero Trust Access and ServiceNow Access Analyzer. So let's get going with some of the platform updates. So a lot of the platform updates are actually the Vancouver release in itself is really primarily focusing on 3 areas: accelerating your productivity, not only for analysts, but also for engineers and other business departments, including your end customers. With the Gen AI controller and its integration into ChatGPT, we can now do automated summations. We can do automated knowledge article generation, automated root cause analysis, automated close code and close resolution based on information gathered within the context of a ticket. They're trying to improve all of their experiences. So we're talking about workspace enhancements to all the areas that workspaces are tied to, like ITSM and SPM and ITOM, and making them more functional and more easily accessible to get you the information that you need when you need it and faster. And then also being able to be more agile. So increasing your security footprint inside of ServiceNow, being able to harden your data within the platform, being able to see who has access to what, where, and why, and take action if people are having access to things that they should not necessarily have access to. So my favorite thing to talk about for this release is Now Assist and its interaction with generative AI, and it's also integration with things like ChatGPT and eventually Bard and a few other large language models that are coming out. This, I think, is probably going to be the true efficiency gain for any agent, analyst, engineer, back-end IT operations support staff, in allowing them to do their jobs exponentially faster, meaning they don't have to hunt for information. They'll be able to do administrative and development work much faster. And it's all because of the ability to take these large language models, allow them to see information in your environment in a secure manner, because it's not going out to just the general open AI environment. It's going to an Azure-based open AI environment. And we're going to showcase kind of what it can do in a small demo, and then what more specific capabilities it has for two of the platforms, right, or three of the platforms right now, and then what we can do as far as that is concerned. So let's take a look. I kind of want to give you an idea of what this actually is. And let me share out this screen and let me know when you guys can see it. And what this demo is going to be is this is going to be a short demo about what kind of the OpenAI capabilities are within the context of ServiceNow and how different user personas can interact with them. And in this instance, we are just a general end user, right? And we're in our portal and we needed to search for a specific piece of information. So let me just type in something. What
Hey, Brian,
is...
really quick, can you at some
Sure.
point zoom in just a little bit? Just a
Oh,
little
sure.
bit.
Not a problem. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Is that good?
Much better. Yeah, thank you.
All right. So I'm just going to search for a random question. Right. So what's our parental leave policy, right? So we can search, and then out of all of the articles, that information is passed to OpenAI and is summarized for the end user. So they don't necessarily have to dive into an article, right? It's all summarized right here, giving them instant access to the information that they need that's most pertinent to the question that's been asked, right? So now they don't have to hunt for information if they're asking information on a specific question. Likewise, if they're looking for a specific piece of data within the environment, it's easily accessible to them in a much faster context than it ever has been. Now, that doesn't negate the fact that they can still go inside the article and still view the information, right? So they can still always go inside the article. But now that it's faster and summarized for them instantly on the previous page, it's more likely for them to just get their answer and move on to something else versus having to go hunt and peck and read an entire article versus having to just get that summation. So now how does that look like when I actually have a problem, right? So using our chat feature in Employee Center, I can go and say, I'm having an issue with, whoops, I'm having an issue with rewards processing, right? An issue. And then, virtual agent can take that conversation over and ask some prescriptive questions like, hey, have I, restarted that application? It didn't fix my issue. Have I restarted my connectivity? No, let's say that didn't work, right? So now I can actually say, hey, I want to connect to an agent. Sure. And then let's go over to the agent role, right? So now this is somebody who's inside of a knock, right? Who's going to be looking at this person's issue and saying, okay, let's take some information there and let's see if we can help this person in their quest to find a resolution, right? So if we go through, we can do our normal checks and balances of, hey, have we restarted? Nope, that didn't do that. Have we looked at the connectivity? Nope, it didn't do that. We get all that in the active chat window, right? So from there, we're saying, hey, we're not able to fix it right here. We're gonna expedite this to a level 3 person for further analysis, and then hopefully they can come to some resolution, right? So given that this interaction can just be transferred over to an incident, it gives the NOC agent a lot more flexibility in how those interactions are handled, but the power comes when this information gets passed to that other person, right? So now that we're here, we can go through and create an incident off of this interaction, and then this information can then be passed over to our NOC manager, who then can start taking a look at this, but they may not know all the information here. So what they can do is they can click on summarize. And then what summarize does is it takes everything in the context of the incident, everything in the context of the activity stream, and then we'll do the summation for them, right? So now an analyst has instant access to what the ticket context is, without having to go and hunt and peck in various areas of the ticket in order to understand what's going on, right? So, we can see that they have an issue with the blank login to the rewards processing system, and then, there was no resolution provided by the previous tier of support. So now I have to do my due diligence, and let's say I did that, and I'm just going to type in some resolution comments here, and then say, hey, after I've done some investigation, there's an application patch that needs to be presented to that person. So there's your resolution notes. And then from there, I can just resolve the ticket. And then what this does is now AI is taking over and automatically updating the resolution codes and resolution notes. And this can be modified to take that entire summation of not only what's going on in the incident, but also the activity stream, and then also put that not only in your closed code, but also your closed notes, which is something that we haven't seen before, right? So now you can see that it updated the resolution code, the resolution notes, and then you can see that it put in the resolution from the investigation, and then it can also be treated to then put that entire summation and resolution information and dynamically create a knowledge article based off of all that. Right? So think about how many times you're fixing an incident and you need to create a knowledge article, but you're like, I don't want to go through the pain of creating a knowledge article. Well, now with this platform, you can have that knowledge article created by Gen AI and have it amalgamate all of this information up to the ticket and then pushed to your knowledge bases, which only further increases the efficiency of not only your knowledge base, but also your engineers, because now they don't have to go and create knowledge articles. They can be created for them, which is kind of cool. So now we can go back to the NOC engineer, and let's say she sees this issue again, right? Like, oh, now I have another ticket that's seeing the same information. Now with Now Assist, it can go and say, hey, guess what? I've seen this thing before, right? Gen AI will go back and look, and now Agent Assist has kind of been there in the background, kind of doing some of this stuff with, context and coordinating and collating information, but it's never been combined with Gen AI in order to give an entire context of picture with regard to an incident. So from here, you can do a few different things. You can link this to this incident. You can copy the entire resolution and resolution notes into this ticket and auto close it because it's already been completed. Or if you really want to get crazy, you can create integrations into this to say, hey, we already have the resolution, and let's take the CI and auto deploy the fix to the CI, which is pretty cool stuff that we haven't really seen before inside of ServiceNow. So that is just a little bit of what ChatGPT and Gen AI can look like. And there are a few different areas in which they are going to deploy this. So one of which is ITSM. So we can do context summaries, which you guys just saw. You can do summation for agents and automation of closed notes and closed codes. And you can also do knowledge article summations and pushes to knowledge bases. Now, this is also available for CSM for those of you who are working with customer service management. And it does all the same things, but just around case management. And same thing for HRSD if you guys are involved in HR, in addition to SPM. It's also working in context with that. Now, there is, from a licensing perspective, a small uplift to do that because I believe from ServiceNow's perspective, there is some costs that are tied to this. So it is a little bit more in licensing for anybody that is curious. I just wanted to put that out there. And another thing, which I think is super cool for those people who are administrators of ServiceNow, there is the Now Assist for Creator. I like to call it Copilot, right? It's essentially ServiceNow's version of Copilot, where you can put a comment of what the code you're looking to do contains, and then it will go dynamically generate that code for you, leveraging ServiceNow's code bases. So it's not just like, pseudocode that you see ChatGPT leverage. It's benchmarked against code that ServiceNow sees in its own environment, which is super cool. So, Dugan, you want to take Zero Trust?
Yeah, I'm actually really jazzed about this one. So this zero trust access, this speaks to if your organization is looking to strengthen that security posture, if you have that hunch that like, hey, we don't know who's accessing the instance, we feel like we're giving out too many roles, we just don't know who's in and who's doing what. So this is a tool that you can use to kind of get that posture strengthened through policy enforcement. There's actually a few different mechanisms you can use, and multi-factor authentication is huge here, where we can enforce that and make sure that we are confirming it's you, whether it's based on your location, your IP. There are conditions we can set to kind of enforce, hey, this is how it is. These are the roles you should have, even though you may have, others. So we kind of see in the screenshot here that we're kind of pulling back the roles, and actually in this case removing ITIL based on a certain condition. So it's, if you think of like surface accounts that may be running your integrations, this is taking it to that level of like, hey, this is what it should really have. Let's scale it back so it's set as that and move forward going with that strategy. So this is huge. I know there have been some questions in the chat about pricing. This one's, I believe, one of the premium pieces there, probably professional and above. Just keep in touch with your ServiceNow AE or sales rep. They can kind of have some specified packaging there for you, pricing. I'd say let's head to the next slide. So Access Analyzer, this one goes hand in hand. I'm hyped up. I'm pretty excited about this one too. So this is actually an extremely useful tool. If you think of system debugging, just debugging ACLs, anything, UI pages, this is one of those tools that you can use. It's very user friendly. It's even better than the debugging tools. So I will be using this as well. More for an administrative piece. I did check the rules on this. This is the admin related, but just seeing which user or which group or which role has access to a certain table or a UI page, or things that should be living on the back end should stay in the back end. So making sure, hey, when I run this, what is this doing? And I'm going to have a demo here in a little bit. I say demo, it's probably just going to be a little show and tell what it really is and what it can do. But this can help with troubleshooting as well. This is huge for strengthening your security posture as well, obviously, but just seeing what someone can really do with your instance. So can I kind of hijack the screen share?
You got it.
Awesome. I'm just going to go for it here. So I have an instance that I've kind of prepped here, and I just have the analyze access module in here. So right away, I just want to show you that this can be done by user, group, or role. It's kind of like a group by in a sense. And we can select, specifically which user we want to do, obviously. So for this case, I think the most popular example is ITIL, having your agents or analysts working on any task record. So I believe we normally have an ITIL user in here that has that role. Kind of what I was hinting at before, this can be done on a table level. This could be done for a client callable script include. So really quick, for those that may not know, script includes are more code libraries on the back end, and they should live there, but you can expose them as a client callable script include. So this is getting more into the exploit realm of SecOps and vulnerabilities, and making sure that that's locked down to specific users or specific roles or whatever whatever it should do, making sure it is doing just that. UI pages, think of that kind of like your websites or your just HTML friendly pages, and this one here, REST endpoints living inside the ServiceNow platform, not the scripted REST endpoints that you may be familiar with. But just really quick, we're just going to go incident table, just kind of show you how this works. So we're going to check this user, seeing they have ITIL in the back end, but just seeing what it looks like by checking, do they have access to the incident table and what does that look like? So we click the button here to kind of run it. And really, this is doing like an ACL breakdown. So what you see here is they have the ability to read incidents. They have the ability to write to that, to the table level and to the record level. So create report view. And then some that are ACL specific, you have to set these up. You have to go out of your way to make this happen for security in your instance. This user does not have access to do that. So and what they're doing with more and more releases coming from ServiceNow, they have very good descriptors on the side to take you to the documentation page. What this really is doing, it's a good breakdown for someone that may have not seen this before and it's their first time coming in here. So,
and for anybody that's ever done debug logging of security and seen what that produces, you can understand how impressive this is for us that do administration of ServiceNow environments, specific to security, that is.
Well said. This will probably be my new favorite tool. You can reanalyze as you make changes within your environment. Think of this as a kind of the call and response of like DevOps. As you make a change, reanalyze. What did that do? As we kind of go through and keep it on your teams and your leads to make sure, hey, when we're developing against this environment, what are you really creating, and what is that going to do? And we want visibility, right? ServiceNow is all about not hiding things. They want to show you what's going on in the back end. It's a single data model. They don't want to hide anything under the covers, reveal it all to you. Certain components they do maintain in-house, so they won't show you those. But wherever possible, they're going to give you visibility. So this is just a prime example of giving visibility. And before I kind of cut the screen share off, there is a little module or like a widget here that shows just previously searched criteria. So as you run these queries, you can visit them and see what the audit trail was, and that reanalyze feature will be nice to kind of just keep the differential going and say, hey, well, why is this one not, they still can't delete or they still can't write? And so this is going to be an awesome tool going forward.
Thank you for that.
And that'll be the last time I demo there, so we won't have to do that again. Awesome. So yeah, diving into the ITSM pieces of Vancouver and features that are coming. I'm really excited about these two. Not as much as the other ones, but so process mining, we have a dashboard we're going to look at. And then for those that are doing DevOps, kind of the build and release pipeline piece there's some exciting features coming. So process mining, I know in our previous webinar, we were hitting on this. This is huge. Existing processes that may be complex, or that they're just mundane, they're repeatable, it's causing too much time for agents to be working on. This is a great tool to kind of analyze past audit trail history and say, hey, this whole process from start to finish, did you notice that there's this little bottleneck right here that takes probably like 5 minutes or whatever the time length may be? It can provide recommendations and say, hey, well, this can really be improved here. This could be removed, or should we rework the entire process? Not advised, only if it makes sense, right? But this is huge to kind of gain efficiency back into your pipelines and your organizations, and really hone in on, hey, what should the process be, and can we automate it? How can we improve it? That's all this is trying to do. So get rid of the manual pieces. I think here I believe if I can see, I think it shows groups by category to say, hey, like these emails are coming in repeatedly. How can we get rid of those? Or this specific channel of like a walk-up is happening numerous times with this user. So the more this runs with predictive intelligence, the more we start to get benefit of, hey, let's become more efficient. Let's improve these processes. I think it's a repeat pattern of Vancouver and more releases from ServiceNow to come of, hey, let's automate, let's become more efficient, let's reduce manual efforts if we can. So excited for this one. I think this one's probably another premium feature, professional. It might even be ITSM Enterprise, but this is huge.
And a lot of this stuff you can add on as individual SKUs if you should want, right? You may have the underlying licensing, but you're looking to say, hey, I'd like this specific feature. You can always work with your account reps to get that happening.
believe this is enterprise. Yep. Oh, success dashboard. So this is great. This is taking KPIs to a next level. And I remember, I believe there's a benchmarking component to this where I believe you still can today. You can take your instance configurations and kind of run it anonymously against other customer instances and see how you're stacking up against their policies and their posture. So this is really taking how your ITSM lay of the land is and seeing where can I reduce this, or well, my agents are they're not really deflecting calls, or they're rerouting, and just everything you'd want to see in the dashboard. It's easy on the eyes. They have revamped more visuals of like line charts you see here. They do have percentage reports as widgets, and just gain really good insights into how am I doing from the ITSM land and where should I really spend time on improving processes or procedures.
And again, this is all benchmarked against every single client that ServiceNow has implementations in, right? So they're benchmarking key KPIs for each module against all other companies, right? So you can just see where you're at, which helps companies drive decision making, especially when it talks the process.
I wish we saw there's a toggle there for cost savings. I like to see that too. That'd be really nice. This is cool. So think of, I mentioned it before, the build and release pipelines. So as you're checking in code and it's releasing to your environment, integrating that into ITSM, they do have similar other providers that kind of integrations, if you will. Well, there's Veracode being introduced. So as your developers are checking in code and you want to make sure that they're up to latest, best practices, industry standards. If you think of SecOps, what ServiceNow offers as a product and capability suite, we want to make sure that we're reducing the vulnerabilities, the exploits, making sure that this code is latest and greatest, it's efficient. We don't want like a whole 100 lines of something when we can do something in just a few. So having Veracode check the code during the pipeline execution and making sure that's ready to go for governance and compliance is only recommended in my book. So they're bringing that to the table here with pipeline integrations, and I couldn't be happier. This is huge for the SecOps community, those that are leveraging that today.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of customers looking into adding DevOps capabilities into their ITSM suites so they can start gaining insights into what their DevOps community is doing in the back end and how those release pipelines integrate into their change management processes, and then how that in turn goes against maybe a service might go down if they did a change with some bad code, or it took down an entire financially sound system that may impact business top line revenue, right? Those are all things that people are starting to want to get insights in that have previously been siloed, and DevOps integrations with DevSecOps can kind of marry the two between DevOps pipelines and ensuring security and data governance for your code. Okay, so now I am going to take my favorite area of the tool, which is ITOM and CMDB, because I'm very data driven and I like to talk about, things that are in data centers and CIs and services and making sure that companies can understand what all that is. So a few things that have been revolutionized in ITOM specifically. There is a different AI ops experience for end users. Again, they've done a ton of visibility and dashboard improvements. And for people that have Kubernetes environments or have, containerized application environments, there is a service graph connector now for OpenTelemetry that can give you insights into how your containerized applications are performing over time. And that directly relates to how intrinsic they are as ingested by ServiceNow when you're looking at specific things. So we'll dive into those. So from an AI ops perspective, when we're talking events, alerts, when we're talking services, understanding how those services are being impacted by those alerts, previously those had all been in different areas, but now we have AI ops and we also have the workspaces for ITOM that give you a single area in which to operate your entire operations workspace. And that's inclusive of your event management system. It's inclusive of your CSDM. It's inclusive of identifying your services and what CIs are tied to those services. And it gives you a lot more robust information about what those alerts are, how they are correlated, what CIs they are tied to. And then that all rolls up to maybe if you have an application service that says, this is my, CRM application. These are all the devices underneath it. Oh, I have 10 alerts that have hit this specific, node or cluster. And that information can then be surfaced to agents. Having all of that in a one single workspace can make your IT ops engineers a lot more efficient in not only their diagnosis, but triage of various events and alerts within the system. So you can see that like they are now leveraging AI ops to group alerts, correlate alerts, so that way it reduces the noise, because as everybody knows, an event management system can get noisy if you don't tailor it to suit your environment and decrease the amount of noise that they develop. But ServiceNow uses not only intelligence and machine learning on the back end to do that correlation, but now it's giving you a much friendlier framework in which to view those grouped alerts to understand exactly what is going on with that particular alert and or CIs that are tied to those alerts. And now they have also given you an integration launchpad. So what that is doing is now you have one area that you can go to look at all of the integrations that you can leverage with ITOM. There is a smattering of integrations for third-party applications and CIs and environments that you can tap into to pull needed data into your CMDB and also integrate that data into things like CSDM and service mapping and how all that interrelates to ITSM and change management. So this gives you a easy way to do those integrations in a centralized area. And again, they just went and revamped all of the dashboards and different areas for performance analytics. The ITOM visibility suite is primarily the plugin that deploys all of the dashboards and reporting that are specific to ITOM. So there are a bunch of different areas that they have revamped to make that a lot more user friendly and give you a lot more robust information than they have before.
I just wanted to call out, I don't know if
Sure.
Can we go back a slide?
Yeah.
For those that are always wondering or kind of dreading hey, when's the certificate going to expire? When do I need to renew? They do have very good reports here. I think this one, if I can read it, certificate expirations, seeing when they are expiring and kind of getting ahead of that schedule and saying, oh, well, these are the ones that we need to really make sure that they need to be on all the time and getting ahead of that. They're doing a much better job of revealing when you should be on top of that and how can we make sure that that doesn't expire ahead of time. So this is huge. This kind of ties into the certificate and firewalls audit piece that I think they might be bundling it now with ITOM visibility. I think that was kind of like a separate capability in the past, but.
Indeed. So this is what I was talking about with open telemetry. Essentially, this ties not only into your Kubernetes environments, but also open telemetry and allows you to view not only the containerized applications that are sitting in Kubernetes, and pulls those into service mapping so you can see your application's real time and all of the associated relationships of that application. And in addition to not only viewing a map of that application, you can also view performance, any alerting, and any logging from those individual CIs straight inside of these dependency views. And you can kind of see here that if you're looking at a specific dashboard for a containerized application, the information that's coming from that Open Graph connector gives you real-time performant data for that particular application and benchmarks that over time. So not in previous implementations of this, it had been, you could pull this data in, but it would be on a schedule over time, whereas this is more real time than it ever has been before. And it's something that people have been asking for, not necessarily from the Kubernetes side, but if you're specific to open telemetry, being able to access performance data of applications from an agent perspective and understanding what that application is doing over time can only give them more information when they're trying to do troubleshooting or analysis. And again, this is just an overview of what that containerized application looks like. And then here you can see that a different CIs from within that particular service are having an issue, as indicated by red, right? And if you take a look at the related items on the other side, you can see that now ServiceNow is grouping those alerts per CI and letting you know that, hey, this CI of this service is having an issue. And from this dependency view of that service map, you can see all of the sub CIs that may be impacted by the CI that's having an issue and understand what that impact is to maybe customers or you know, groups of employees or departments or even sub companies could have effects. So having all of this information within that workspace is paramount for agents and engineers and NOC managers to have at their fingertips. All right, so something cool that's coming out of the CMDB for CSTM, and it's called the Unified Map View. So for those people who have ITOM visibility or any ITOM licensing, they have revamped the dependency view and the service map view into a culminated view that's called the Unified Map View. And essentially, it gives you access to see different levels of a particular service or view, and you can dynamically look at related information against those particular CIs or services or anything that has a dependent relationship inside the map, right? So if you're taking a look at what our IT service looks like, right, you can see there's different parts of IT that maybe we're looking at the bond trading service specifically. And then you can see everything underneath that. But maybe you're looking into a specific server and you wanted to understand more information about that. You can take a look and then see what information about that server ServiceNow has on it. Additionally, you can take a look and see what changes have happened against that server, all within the dependency map or the unified map in this case. So if you think about that from, let's say you have an incident that has come in by way of an event, and that incident has this service mapped to it by logical relationship to a CI. And an agent opens up that service and then needs to understand, hey, what changes have happened against the service over time? What changes have happened against particular CIs? It can hunt and allow them to graphically view upstream, downstream dependencies, but can also allow them to see what changes, what events have happened against it, what incidents, problems all correlate to not only a single CI, but the service as a whole. So it gives a huge amount of power to agents and engineers and L2, L3 people, NOC folks. It really gives them a lot of information at their fingertips, which is fantastic. All right, Dugan, it's your favorite sub part of ServiceNow.
Probably sound like a
There you
broken
go.
record. I love automation just as much as the other features too. So this is huge. Yeah. So this is a quick summarization. We're having like a spoke generator, which is kind of like a nice, easy to walk through wizard. JSON builder is huge. We do have some import enhancements with Integration Hub, and then those that are probably familiar and probably wanting to know, a generative AI controller, which is huge as well. It's been big in the community. It's coming. So we'll talk on that too. So this one's awesome. I did go to a recent low code, no code little get together in Milwaukee here, and it was focusing on like how App Engine is just becoming more of a friendly wizard, a guided experience. For those of you that know guided setup, very similar. They're trying to make it, hey, if you're building an app, how can I just get from A to B in the simplest way possible? Creating an app used to be so it could be complicated with Studio and it's kind of a clunky interface. Well, you're starting to see the trend of more intuitive, easy to use interfaces. So this is what this is. Guided experience, getting a net new spoke out there. I have done this in the past. It was a little, many more clicks than what it should be here. This kind of takes some descriptions and infers, hey, you're trying to do this, and leverage OpenAI specs, which I think is relies on Swagger to kind of interpret, hey, I need to post, to this API and do this. Well, as you've seen with previous Now Assist for ITSM and CSM and generative AI, it's able to kind of summarize that and say, hey, I think this is what you need, and it puts that in there for you to use if you'd like. You can kind of take it out of there if it's not what you're trying to do. So this is huge. This is going to get away from the manual pieces of an admin trying to go in there and get you from point A to point B faster. So excited for this one.
And this allows entire departments to create their own spokes for business process automation, tertiary third-party integrations, all with low-code, no-code actions that administrators can set up previous and then give to citizen developers to do low-code, no-code business process automation relatively easier than if they had to go and do it all manually. So this spoke generator is going to be fairly robust for those people who are trying to do citizen development.
Agreed. Oh, JSON builder. So this is huge. So in the past, for those that have been immersed in code and trying to set this up, and Brian and I have been guilty of this many times, this is a friendly tool to kind of make sure that your JSON payload is going to be structured properly. What do you want to include? What do you want to omit? Making sure that it's dynamic and it's structured properly. I've had it once or twice where I had a comma here or something, and little would you know, the JSON's rendered just incomplete and it's just not structured right. So this is awesome just to make sure that you build this correctly. They do have some data pills that you can kind of click and drag and make this a little dynamic. So this is awesome. I feel like this should have been there from the get-go, but they're introducing this now, and happy it's here. Import enhancements. So I think this is just like a quick, hey, here's enhancements that are coming for import processes, making the UI a little bit fancier. I think they've got some check marks for determining which fields are source fields originally. They had some Excel improvements there, just making it easier to use Excel, because I know it with the header and everything, and just past experiences of whether you're importing it or trying to work with it live in ServiceNow, it's been a little rough. So bringing that to light and making it easier to use is only for the better. So and I guess you can import into multiple target tables. So I will be trying that soon. That's a really nice feature. So. And so here we are. So real quick, I just wanted to highlight that this generative AI controller feature, this is licensed through, they're doing it through ServiceNow applications now. And so when I say applications, I mean like the products that, so ITSM, and we've seen it with CSM and other HRSD. And so that's how they're doing it. Before, I think they were looking at licensing this through like automation engine SKUs. Don't ask me why they changed it. Why they're just putting it through the normal channels that you would implement with ITSM and what have you. So CSM. So, but this is huge. So low code, no code, leveraging Azure OpenAI and OpenAI and Azure AI. And right now you kind of see the 4 prompts there. Summarize is huge. We've seen that with the Now Assist pieces before, but it can generate content for you. So I think ServiceNow is leveraging this in-house to kind of do some of that predictive intelligence piece there. So this is going to be awesome for you to take this into your actions that you're building custom and say, hey, when someone asks this through a chat or wherever you're populating this, we need to do this based off this. And real quick, they have ServiceNow, the developer program folks, they have like a YouTube channel. They do constantly do happy hour coding sessions, and they've used this in there to kind of just tell me a joke, do this after this, and they're constantly getting creative and just trying to break this. So ServiceNow has been trying to work on this for a while and make sure it's sound and rigid with responsible AI. Everything that's been emerging that we've seen in the community is right for AI. We want to make sure that it's sound, it's providing helpful responses and not just something that you wouldn't take action on. Q&As are great as well. So can't wait for this. I think this is going to be a very hot topic. It's going to be used widely. So I'm happy for this. Well, we do have recommended actions. So more for the automation side of the house, kind of taking descriptions, like I said, and inferring of, oh, hey, we're trying to do this. Well, we want visibility into like, what should we really do? How should we act on this? So ServiceNow is able to actually provide recommended actions, is what they're calling them, to make sure that, hey, you should really be doing this to kind of improve this or make this more efficient. So you can drill down on those actions to kind of get better information and into what it's really kind of hinting at. But there are details there. I'm trying to zoom in and view this of actual cost per run, so gaining financial insights into it, whether if you're concerned about that in your organization of hardware, software, asset management, and which department this relates to, and kind of how they have a score ranking, which can be key for prioritization purposes, and which ones would really kind of provide value, more bang for your buck. So this is huge, kind of see this and, hey, you should be aware of this, but then which ones should you really act on and what should you do? So this is telling you just that.
Yeah, and it's also, if you think about it from a CI perspective, and I always liken this to, hey, let's say you have an event come in, it creates an incident, the incident is tied to a CI, and ServiceNow can take a look at all of that information and then say, hey, maybe the recommended action for this CI is to reboot, or maybe it's to execute this script, right? You can take a look at that and then maybe take direction on that particular automated request and then send that out and have a remediation engine on the back end. It takes some doing, but there are use cases where it's been done, and it's pretty spectacular.
As always, hit up your sales rep, account executive from ServiceNow. I'm looking at, it says professional enterprise on the slide deck. I thought I've been told this was enterprise only. Maybe they've made a change there. So could be professional enterprise. I'm leaning towards enterprise on that one, but I could be wrong.
All right. So our final area, what is going on between the relationship between ServiceNow and Microsoft? So they have been expanding the relationship over this past year and are now moving into more of a partnership with regard to what the capabilities are and their integrations into things like Azure, Teams, M365, GitHub. There are a lot of strategic things that ServiceNow is trying to do with Microsoft so that it ensures seamless integration to meet your customers not only where they are, but also allow customers to spin up ServiceNow front ends in Azure themselves, which is something that I haven't seen before. So the first part is, Microsoft's acquisition of OpenAI and its integration into ServiceNow, the generative AI capabilities, but they're also allowing you to spin up your own Azure OpenAI instance that you can tie directly into ServiceNow. So a big, huge question that everybody always asks me is, is our data going to OpenAI? And no, it's not. It's going to an instance of a large language model that lives in your Azure instance. So the data goes from ServiceNow to your Azure instance and back. It's not going from ServiceNow to OpenAI's main data center and then back. Much like everybody who's been paying attention to generative AI, Google has said don't use it, Microsoft has said don't use it, but they're using it in their own internal instances via Azure, right? So from a security perspective, this is huge to put customers at ease. And it's definitely something that people are going to be leveraging in the future. Again, the generative AI controller, that is what ServiceNow has developed in partnership with Microsoft and allowing them to submit the API calls back to these large language models, and they've been developed in concert. ServiceNow on Azure. So they are now allowing you to put, it's only available to new customers right now, but you can now have ServiceNow inside of your Azure in order to help orgs optimize their investments, right, in Azure. So if you look at how you can scale up, you might not want to have ServiceNow host the actual front end. They're allowing you to host the front end of ServiceNow inside of Azure, which is something that I haven't seen before, but they've been doing that in concert with Microsoft. And then this is probably my favorite one, ServiceNow's integration into M365. So this is meeting your customer where you are, right? So for anybody that's currently leveraging Employee Center with an Employee Center Pro SKU, you now have the capability to extend your Employee Center into Teams and Office 365 and even through Outlook. So even your M365 apps, right? So if your customer is in PowerPoint, if your customer's in Word, if your customer's in Teams, they have direct access to the Employee Center. And likewise, they can also have direct access to Virtual Agent. And by way of Virtual Agent, they can also have access to the summation and OpenAI capabilities, right? So all of these features only further bolster that you can now meet your customers where they are and start getting rid of the emails, getting rid of the phone calls, because we're seeing huge swaths of clients moving from, we don't want to take phone calls anymore. We don't want to do any, email based. But in order to do that, you have to meet your customers where you are, and this fully enables you to do that. And then, of course, this is integrating your ITSM platform with GitHub. So they have created a connector in order to integrate your pipeline into ServiceNow through DevOps pipelines and allow you to not only bring in your change and release information into ITSM, but then dynamically spin up releases, changes based on those DevOps pipelines. And that was created directly in concert with Microsoft. So again, that partnership is a better together story. They are fully invested in it, and it's only going to be getting better. So you're going to start seeing a lot more integrations and interactions between Microsoft, not from only from an Azure perspective, but also some of their internal apps as well. Okay, so that was only half of the information that we have. We still have information in this slide deck about customer service management, SecOps, SPM. There's some additional features and functionalities that if you go into the actual presentation, you'll find even more information. Vancouver is a huge release. What I'm asking is that if anybody has any questions, this is what I want you to take away from this, right? So one of the things that we pride ourselves on is we like to do something called an envisioning session or assessment. It's just a discussion with your business to talk about, what are your thoughts? What are you thinking about doing with ServiceNow? Do you want to do an assessment of your environment? Let's think about business use cases. We kind of take everybody from the business, put them in a room, get them to strategize about what and how they're using ServiceNow. And out of those little breakout groups, culminate an entire swath of ideas and use cases and automation opportunities that people can leverage to make ServiceNow even more powerful than it already is. Or if you're looking to do, a roadmap, if you're wanting to understand what different modules are available to you with ServiceNow, if you have no idea your implementation path, or you want to just discuss how to implement new features and functionality across your organization, feel free to reach out. We do a robust road mapping solution where we can take a look at your entirety of your ServiceNow instance and give you benchmark overviews across every single module and how they present across multiple different organizations, and then give you a roadmap to help you understand where your future investments should lie. We also do, fixing and full-on implementations, right? So we can optimize, we can do automations, we can implement. I think we're implementing 9 modules now consistently across all of our client sets. Or if you want to do new capabilities, enhance additional features, do process mapping, look towards efficiency gains from automation perspective. We do full automation remediation and development. So we have a full stack of capabilities in addition to being full-blown Microsoft Premier partners, right? So not only do we have the ServiceNow background, but we have an entire arm of concurrency that does specific Microsoft work. And we marry those two to create a robust enterprise solution for consulting for your org and all of your employees. So with that, I would like to thank you wholeheartedly for your time. I really appreciate that you guys took time out of your day to come visit with us. And I hope some of the information you saw at least sparked some imagination or an idea or maybe a use case you hadn't thought about. And if you did, I'd be curious to hear what those are. So if you would and want, you could drop me an email, or this presentation is going to come to you in a future email, and hopefully we'll be talking soon. So thanks, everyone. Appreciate your time.
Thank you for your time, everyone.